Plans for radical reform of the welfare system are unveiled by the government. Benefit payments will be replaced by a single universal credit under proposals aimed at getting more people back into work. Calls for excessive health and safety rules to be abolished. Countdown to the Commonwealth Games. Prince Charles arrives in Delhi ahead of tomorrow's opening ceremony. And Europe fight back in the Ryder Cup at Celtic Manor to leave the competition finely balanced. Hello and good evening. Plans for the most radical overhaul of the welfare system in decades have been unveiled by the government. Under the proposals, individual benefit payments will be replaced by a new universal credit. A key aim is to ensure that anyone in work will be better off than someone on the dole. But critics say it risks making some of the most vulnerable in society worse off. Our political correspondent Carole Walker has the details, and her report does contain some flash photography from the start.
It's his first conference as Prime Minister. David Cameron will be hoping the announcement of radical welfare reform will show the coalition is not just out to slash public spending. The government wants to encourage people like Joanne to work. She's a single parent living on benefits and has 3 children. Taking a job would mean less time with her children and not much more money.
What's stopping me at the moment is like money. Because at the moment, I've got to find a job what's going to cover all costs, rent, council tax, everything what I'm going to lose, like school dinners, bus fares. It's a lot I've got to cover. And when I worked it out on minimum wage, I've just come out with £40 extra.
Ian Duncan-Smith has been on a mission to find ways of breaking the cycle of poverty and unemployment since he visited the Easterhouse estate in Glasgow 8 years ago. Now, as Work and Pensions Secretary, he's won agreement for far-reaching reforms to simplify the benefits system and make sure people are better off in work. A whole range of separate benefits, the housing, families with children and the unemployed, will merge into one universal credit. The government says that when people find work and their salaries go up, their benefits will be withdrawn gradually. More details will be spelt out here at the Conservative Party conference this week. A spokeswoman told me there would be no losers, but a shake-up on this scale is difficult to get right.
Most people receiving out-of-work benefits are by definition in the bottom half of the income distribution. So if they have their benefits reduced or taken away and they don't respond by moving into work, they will be poorer, worse off, and clearly the gap between their incomes and the incomes of those who are in work would widen. That will be a real concern back on the Easterhouse estate, where many are still dependent on benefits and jobs are hard to find. Improving the lives of people here will be the real test of the government's reforms.
And Carole is outside the conference now. So how significant are these proposals?
Well, David Cameron has described them as revolutionary, and certainly they are very ambitious, but it will take quite some time before these plans are fully in place, perhaps as long as 10 years. And it's worth bearing in mind that if you're going to allow more people to keep more benefits, in the short term there is a cost, and that cost is going to have to be found by Ian Duncan-Smith from the Department of Work and Pensions. We don't have many of the figures on this yet. We also know that Ian Duncan-Smith still hasn't agreed the overall budget for his department. So an awful lot to be worked out so far before we can really judge whether these plans are going to work.
OK, Carole, thank you. The United States is expected to issue a new terrorist alert for Americans in Europe tomorrow, following intelligence about the possible threat of an al-Qaeda attack. It's understood the advice from the State Department will urge US citizens to stay vigilant, but doesn't identify any specific targets or countries. Police in Northern Ireland are investigating the deaths of an estranged couple whose bodies were found in County Antrim this morning. Sharon Hull was found dead in her home shortly before the body of her husband Philip was discovered in a car a few miles away. Chris Paige reports.
This is Philip and Sharon Hull before their separation. A sociable couple with 3 young children, they were well known in the community. Now it appears that early this morning, Mr Hull murdered his wife, then took his own life. Sharon Hull, who was 32, was stabbed to death at her home. She was found by her mother, who raised the alarm. 10 minutes later, Philip Hull was found dead in a car at a forest a few miles outside the town. He was 34. All day, police have been searching for clues, trying to find out what happened in the hours before Sharon and Philip Hull's deaths. Neighbours living in this quiet cul-de-sac say above all they're saddened for the couple's 3 children. They were not at the house when Sharon Hull was killed, but neighbours say they were there yesterday.
It's a great shock for them, great shock for the entire family, but everyone now is, so thoughtful of where these young children, what happens to them now.
Tonight, police have confirmed they're not looking to speak to anyone else about the deaths.